Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is 58 Keys, which, as ever, as always, is for writers like you and me who use and write on Macs and iPads and today, especially iPhones. While you, please, like, subscribe and patronise me, I know it's not the right word, we're off to Paris. Yeah, okay, no, I've just been. The thing is, it was a holiday. I didn't go expecting to talk to you about it. I didn't go expecting to make a video. I didn't bring microphones, tripods, didn't write. It was a holiday. But throughout it, the iPhone and the iPad were extraordinarily useful. And actually, so was the Apple Watch. Yeah, no, I could have paid a bit more attention to Paris. Anyway, it's not like I didn't expect to ever use my iPhone on the trip, just not this much. One thing actually is new since I last went to Paris a couple of years ago, and that's excellent. And one involved an Apple app that's ancient. I mean, a decade old. I only really appreciated it now during this trip. I expect that you know each part I want to show you, but what I really want to show you, what I want you to see, is the total thing. So how about this? Let's race through apps for every part of any trip, but especially now, the great Paris. Could you turn me around now, please? Thanks. Usual stuff first, right? I mean, before going on any trip, right? Of course, you can use iPhone apps like Booking.com, Airbnb, Kayak, you know them all. They're all for transport, and some are also for hotels, accommodation. I didn't, as it happens, do any searching for accommodation because, well, I already knew where I wanted to go. I wanted to know which hotel we wanted. My wife and I were on the trip. We were going back to the same hotel that we've stayed in for our honeymoon a little while ago. Couple of weeks. Yeah, I actually did, by the way, use Kayak when I was thinking of flying to France, but in the end we used the Eurostar train instead. So well, there's a Eurostar app, isn't there? And also I had to get from here to London for the Eurostar, which meant a train, and that for me that meant the Trainline app. Okay, there are other options available, but that's what I used. Now, whatever it is you use though, the result is the same. It costs a lot of money, but you get emailed a booking confirmation, don't you? And then I suggest that you do this: forward that email, those emails, all of these emails to plans@tripit.com. You do need to have set up first an account with TripIt.com, and you will want the TripIt app. I mean, you'll really want it. Just let me show you. Look. That on TripIt.com, on the TripIt app, was my train and hotel itinerary for the whole Paris trip, all in one place, one app. And I can tap on any of it to get more details, but I can also just see the sequence, the chronology, know what it is I need to be doing next. That thing with the email, forwarding the email, I think that's so clever. You forward the email to that TripIt address, and TripIt looks at what address you sent it from, matches that to your account, and does its doings. And then even, I think the doings are very impressive. Think of the hundreds of thousands of companies to do with transport and travel and hotels, and how differently they all do their booking confirmation. TripIt parses each one to extract the detail. About 15 years ago, something like that, I did have a problem when one company just redesigned all its forms, and it took a month or more for TripIt to update to the new layout, but it did. And when it can't pass something because there's a redesign or it doesn't recognize it, or if you don't have a booking confirmation email, you can add the details of it manually to TripIt. I like TripIt so much that I feel a bit guilty telling you that it's free, because it doesn't have to be. There is a paid version for $49 per year, but I've never needed anything more than you get with TripIt's, I think, very generous free version. So throughout the trip, right, I had TripIt, and I could check the next step, the next detail. Didn't have to worry about anything yet. I could look at the coach number on the train, the seat number, but I also had this. And this is the Apple app that I've never really paid much attention to, Apple Wallet. Now, I do use Apple Pay on my watch. I like that a lot. And actually, no, I don't think there was a single thing on this trip to Paris that I paid for in any other way than blipping at it with my watch. And Apple Pay, it's tied to this wallet app, but you kind of don't care. You set up your credit, your debit card in Apple Wallet, you never open the app again. Except Train tickets. These days, if the train company plays nice, they give you a button to download the tickets to your wallet app. And I'm just after thinking, well, that's nice. That's good. It means all the tickets are in one place instead of I have to dig through emails for them. But then this happens. Wallet puts notifications on your lock screen. Now, this one I want to show you here is for Navigo, which I'll come to in a moment because it's a different thing, but it's also a new thing. Wallet does that, though, with everything that's stored in it. Wallet surfaces to the lock screen what you need next. So actually, as I got near here in the train station, as the time of trains got closer, all I had to do was pick up my phone, and there it was on the screen. The notification of the next ticket that I needed would be right there on the lock screen in front of me. Tap on the notification, you go straight to it. Actually, you're going into wallet and you're going into ticket, but you don't care. Notification, tap, done. Wave it at the ticket collectors or at the barrier scanners, done. Tell you, TripIt and wallet. I've always had both, but they've always kind of been tucked away in folders. I have a travel folder and I have a finances folder. Yeah. But for this trip, I brought them forward eventually onto my iPhone's home screen, so they were right there. Which, by the way, had another benefit. I've got these couple of apps, it doesn't matter what they are, but they're to do with various work projects, and they are ones that will regularly, throw out one of those red notification badges, and I'm afraid when they do, I just can't not look to see what the notification is, and you're right back in writing work mode. So when I moved TripIt and Wallet to the front screen, I also moved those other apps off into another folder somewhere else, and so I just didn't even see the red badges once. It was glorious. Must do that more often. There are focus modes and things as well, but out of the way. Yeah. But now, right, let's say you and I are almost at Paris. We're on the Eurostar, and okay, tell me I'm dumb for not thinking of this until I'm on the way, and I won't disagree with you. I'm starting to think on the train about how to get around Paris, and this is Navigo. This is quite new. In Paris now, just as I'm used to, just as maybe you are in cities, well, for me, London, New York and all that stuff, where you can walk up to a metro, an underground barrier, wave your iPhone over the rear and just go straight through. Okay. You have been able to do this in Paris for years if you had an Android phone, but for some reason, the iPhone only quite recently got the same ability. Not one thin clue why, but it's there now. A couple of things about it, though. First, if you don't happen to have ever done this before, I think you automatically expect to have to do something on your iPhone as you get to the ticket barriers, but you do not. The presence of the iPhone is enough. Once this has all been set up, and actually setting up is a little different in Paris than anywhere else I know. Anywhere else, for example, you've added your credit or your debit card to the iPhone. That's how you can do the blipping things, and on the Apple Watch as well. And should you need to through the wallet app, well, then you select that card. You tap on card details, and you can tap express travel settings or express mode. Do you know, all of this sounds like such a lot of faff going around it, but you do it once, you do it when you're first adding the card, and it's just done. From then on, in cities or any other place where this works at all, just the physical presence of your iPhone or your Apple Watch near the ticket scanner is enough. Most of those places, though, the fee for the ticket is taken from your card, of course. Actually, I'm just a minor interest. I think it's taken when you go through the other end, when you come out of your journey through that last barrier, so that it can calculate different length journeys and so charge you appropriately. With Paris and other places, the difference is the fee isn't taken out of your credit or your debit card. Instead, what you've done is you've bought a set of tickets, and each time you go through a barrier, a ticket is spent. And in that case, actually, the transaction, well, you paid in advance, but the ticket goes away at the barrier as you enter the metro. Nicely, though, when you have to change routes, and for some reason that means going through other barriers, well, you blip on as normal, but you also get this notification that you weren't charged for it. To set up any of this, again, because it is slightly different, well, you go to the wallet app. I did this on the Eurostar on the way down. You tap the plus sign to add a new card, then you tap travel card, and you get such a long list of country options, but you can scroll, or you can kind of search. There is something a bit odd here, though. Right now, if you search for France, you get nothing. There's a list of countries, search for France, nothing. Search for Paris, and you get something. And I know that actually sounds like it does make sense, because this stuff isn't available across the whole of France. It is available in Paris. But the search result you get back doesn't say Paris, it does say France. Anyway, at present, I don't know if this is going to ever change, but Navigo is the only one available, so you tap away at that and set it up, and then it's set up on your phone, and you can go through choosing what Navigo tickets to buy. I wish actually that there were more options, or for how many tickets you can buy, or maybe just that I'd spent longer looking at this before getting on the Eurostar, but there are these various options, and what I did is I ended up buying a set of 10 Navigo tickets. I've got 6 left. It's not clear either when they expire, if they expire. I'm doing a thing later in the year, and I'm now thinking actually of going back to Paris. I mean, not just because I've got 6 Navigo tickets left. Not entirely. One other small thing about Navigo on iPhone. Even though all of the ticket barrier scanners in the world seem to be on your right as you go through, I wear my Apple Watch on my left wrist, and still I find it handier to wave the watch over the reader than I do to, get out the iPhone and do that. Navigo and Apple Wallet together said that I could add this new Navigo card to my watch, but there was something weird about it. It was like prompting me through things. It seemed to be saying that, yeah, you could add it to your watch, but that would remove it from the phone, but it's okay because you could put it... Oh, yeah. We were nearly at the Channel Tunnel, right? I was already knackered. It was a long trip already. Enough already. I'll leave it on the phone. I whatevered it. That's what I did. Have iPhone. Will travel. Just need directions now from Gare du Nord in Paris to our hotel. Apple Maps transit directions. Just perfect. The thing is, I've actually been a bit grumpy with Apple Maps lately, only in the last few weeks, maybe because I'm on beta tests of software and stuff, I don't know, but I've been researching various things I was writing about. I just want to see where something was, or how far it was from there to this other place, all that kind of thing. And Apple Maps on the Mac, it just didn't like me recently. But Apple Maps on the iPhone in Paris, godsend. Actually, Apple Maps on the iPhone and also on the Apple Watch, just superb. This is the real-time transit detail for my route from Gare du Nord to my hotel in the 8th arrondissement. I just wanted to say arrondissement, really. I am conscious that I sound as if I spent the whole trip staring at my iPhone screen. Anyway, at the hotel, I'm showing the booking email to the receptionist. We're into the room. It's reasonably late by then, so I'm just relaxing. I'm reading a book on the iPhone. I use both Kindle and Apple Books. As it happens, I think Apple Books has better formatting, better layout. It's a better reading experience, I think. But then Kindle has more books, so what are you going to do? And while I was reading on my iPhone, I handed my iPad over to my wife because I'd downloaded a BBC show that she'd missed using the BBC iPlayer app. She had a nice time. I had a good time. Sitting in Paris, faces in screens, just relaxing. It was great. And then also checking out the local area with Google Street View, which is everywhere, and Apple Maps' kind of knockoff of that, Look Around, which isn't. Look Around is actually better, I think, than Street View. I like the way it works better, but it's far from being available everywhere. It is in Paris, though, so looking around, see what was there. And then in the morning, sometimes at breakfast, right, and we did try to eat in different places every day. I would do my best to read the menu, and I did do my best to speak French to waiters, but when I get a bit lost with the menu, I had another Apple app that never really paid enough attention to. Translate. I do actually use translation in Safari regularly, I mean at least a few times a month, but with the Translate app I could read the menus. It's ridiculously easy to take that for granted. I mean, it's just translating from French to English automatically. But it's also doing so and replacing the French text in place. I mean, here in the menu, it's a bit obscured because you get these background lines and things, but still, it's roughly the right font, roughly the right size, and in the same place. It does make you wonder what else they can do. Well, I've shown you transit maps. Okay, we did actually mostly walk. I mean, that's the best way to see a city, to walk around, and that's why I've got all these Navigo tickets left. But in the case of walking, right, I would actually sometimes have my iPhone out in order to see this, AR directions around the city. But the rest of the time, I'd have the phone in my pocket. I'd be checking the map on my Apple Watch, and actually, I really like that. I hadn't used it so much for a while. I appreciate now it's now full screen on the watch, and I don't know why it wasn't before, but these days it's so clear and it's so useful on there. Plus, I'm actually saying this as much to get it in my own head as to tell you, Apple Watch will tap you 12 times, I think it's 12, in quick succession when you should be turning right. When you need to turn left, it does 2 taps 3 times in a row. It's very simple, and I still get it wrong. But, now I've said it aloud to you, hopefully I'll remember. And it is always useful. Just as soon as I'm tapping, you could be looking ahead, you could be looking around, you could be not looking like a tourist with an expensive phone out, and yet, wherever you are, wherever you're going, tap when it's time to turn. But speaking of where you're going, well, I think you can do this in Apple Maps and Google Maps too, but I so much like an app called Where To. It's that app on the screen there with the exit on its icon. I mean, I keep thinking it's called Exit. It's so clearly Exit, I forget that it's actually called Where To. What it does is it lets you search for places. I mean, fine, but also make kind of broad searches like restaurants. Any restaurants, convenience stores. If there's something you search for often, well, you can pop it into a favourites list, just make it a one-tap thing. So there you can see I have books, of course I have books, and Apple stores. You can get pretty specific, such as saying Indian restaurants, or really, really specific, such as La Gare Lafayette, an actual place name. When you do a general search, right, you can then have a list of all of the matching places arranged in the list by distance and with some immediate details, such as whether the restaurant is open or not. Or you can have a map view, which just kind of drops loads of pins for where each of the matching places are. Or you can use a kind of combination map and AR view where it places labels on each result, places an AR label. So you turn your phone around to see where the place is, what direction to go, and whether it's one of those labels or it's a pin or it's the straight list, where you can tap to get more details about a place. For instance, opening times, a website link, very often photos of the place, and an option to start directions to going there. This is actually one single thing I don't like about Where To. When you tap to get directions, it works out a route and it shows it to you inside the Where To app, which I suppose is fine, and it can give you more details about that route, which is good. But if I've got to this stage, I want to go there, and I cannot find a go button. I mean, possibly the map just moves as you do, but invariably I use the feature to send those directions off to Apple Maps. I mean, invariably, so invariably, that I would like to have it just go straight there, please. I can see a benefit to this midway pause kind of thing, because Where To does also list any other travel apps you have on your iPhone. But I'd like that to be, like that was an option. Choose to see those if you want to, not that it was the default, because you've got to schlep through another step. The funny thing is, I'm not actually sure. We've used this for so long. I'm sure there used to be a way that if you just pressed and held on the directions button, it skipped all of this and went straight to Apple Maps, but not anymore. Also, should say, if you're going to look online, Where To, it's a really unfortunate choice of name, because if you do try searching online, I mean, in a web browser, something for Where To app, and even if you think, nah, let's add iPhone or iOS, well, good luck to you. I've actually had Google's useless AI feature chastise me, saying there isn't one such app. Where To is a generic term, but whatever. If you want to look for it online, to more details about it, search for Where To Future Tap. Future Tap is the developer. You should find it much more easily with just Where To on the App Store, but I can't be certain of that. It surfaces for me, but possibly because I've already got it. I don't know. Where To, I should say, is a subscription app, but it's a preposterously cheap one. In the UK, it's £2.99 per year, or you can actually buy it outright for £12.99. In the US, it's $2.99 or $14.99 to buy outright. I bought it. I bought it years and years and years ago. I actually remember, so it's back in my head now, right at the start of the App Store, like 2008, there was an app called Vicinity that did this same thing. And that was the first app that amazed me. I mean, wherever you were, wherever you are, it finds every detail of everything you could possibly need around you. Vicinity, I used it slavishly, but then it seemed to vanish after a few years, and now Where To has long been the one to get. But speaking of going places, you're a writer. If you're in Paris, you are going to go to Shakespeare and Company, the English language bookstore that's near some place called Notre Dame or something. Yeah, look at that. Queues to get into a bookstore, only in Paris. Fantastic. Also, there's now a very handy cafe, which is, on a hot day, as it was when I was there, was particularly welcome, right next door to the bookstore. I should say there are actually a couple of other English language bookstores that don't tend to be as well known. One of them is this, called Smith & Son. In the UK, W.H. Smith & Son, or Sons, is, or was, a familiar name for newsagents that also sold books and things. And this was that, but it isn't anymore. And the new owners just shortened it to Smith & Sons, and it's very good. It's got creaking floorboards, it's got lots of books, it's got space for you to read and relax. If you only visit one bookstore in Paris, I mean only one English language one, well, it's got to be the famous Shakespeare and Company, of course it is. But if you visit two, please tell me though why I had these two great bookstores and I bought books there, but I still bought ebooks on my iPhone. Well, actually, I'll tell you. My wife Angela recommends, she just finished reading On the Calculation of Volume, and I read the first volume overnight on her recommendation, and then bought the second and read it all in a day. It was fantastic. I mean, so relaxing to just read on your iPhone and read in Paris. But there are other tourist things to do, and, well, we didn't exactly do them because this is far from our first time in Paris. Well, there's the Eiffel Tower over there you go, see. And this is taken from on top of La Galeries Lafayette that I mentioned, which has this dome-like thing on the roof, which goes down into this amazing space. Also has a cafe that serves ice. There are the details we need. And like any other tourist, obviously we had to go to one of the 3 Apple stores in the city. This is Apple Opera, and it's one of those gorgeous shops where Apple has renovated an architecturally interesting old building, saved it really, and kept it as much as it used to be as possible. And what it used to be was a bank, and downstairs there's still the door to the vault. I mean, it's not a door to anywhere anymore now. You can just walk either side of it. But they've left the door in that section of war. Just so well done. Also now in Paris, by the way, there's kind of a tribute to something a little bit more recent than that bank, the 2024 Paris Olympics. I'm no kind of sports fan, but I watched that incredible opening ceremony they did. And so, actually it was exciting to come to this point and be chased by the Olympic balloon. Yeah, all right. Okay, that was more me picturing the prisoner. Can't get that. I mean, that's another story. And actually, around there, it was a lot of sand. You just do not appreciate quite how much there is around there. Starting out of the Place de Concorde and ambling around, coming up to that point, sand. But those were black shoes when I started that day, I promise. And if I'm promising things. Also in the evening, right, knackered from all of the walking through the sand, and okay, all of the eating, all right. But sitting there with my iPad in the hotel, I got to look at tomorrow's places to go, if we felt like it, if we wanted. And you cannot go to Paris and not experience the culture. So this is me looking up the filming locations for Astrid et Raphael, drama series shown here in the UK as Astrid, Murder in Paris, and I think in the US as just Astrid. I didn't actually end up going to any of those, but I did also, got to be thorough here, looked up the filming locations for Before Sunset, one of my absolute favourite films, and we did do a little bit of that. Well, I mean, of course we did, because the film starts off at Shakespeare and Company bookstore, obviously. Books, walking, eating, pretty constant iPhone help all along the way. Do you know, I could recommend this holiday thing. I've read about them before. They're good. There is, of course, one more iPhone-related travel thing that you just, well, I don't think you can do without. AirTags. AirTags in the cases. I've got an AirTag in my car. It's a travel essential, and you know that. You know this. You know that AirTags mean you can find your lost luggage and things like that. But I've got to tell you this. Tiny story, I'll make it quick. I didn't actually do that on this trip, but I did once do this thing I think was quite clever. I mean, clever for me. Anyway, a previous use of AirTags. Right, picture the scene. I'm in Vienna. Right, I get around, don't I? But I'm a bit lost. I used Find My on my iPhone to find the AirTag, to find my luggage, but I knew where my luggage was. We were on a cruise at the time. It was back there on the ship. So I wasn't using Find My to find my luggage. I used it to direct me, lost little me, back to the ship where it was. I was so smug about that. I mean, I know it's ridiculous and possibly ridiculously obvious even, but we're writers, right? You and I. And in writing, I love anything where a writer finds a subtly different way to do something, to anything, usually to convey something. I mean, it can't be something contrived, it can't be just for the sake of being different, but it can be new and fresh, and I love it. And that misuse of AirTags appealed to me in exactly that same way. So, run the list with me, please. AirTags, right? Location scouting, kind of, on the iPad. Where To app with its lists, its maps, and its AR views of where to go. Apple Books and Kindle, too. Weather on the Apple Watch, actually maps on the Apple Watch as well. Amazing stuff with all that tapping, whichever way around that was, to turn left and right. The Translate app too, Look Around and Street View. BBC iPlayer app. Apple Maps live transit directions. Navigo for the metro in Paris instead of tickets. All right, since I'll tell you, I'm actually papyrophobic. I have like a sort of OCD kind of thing with small pieces of paper. I'm a writer who's afraid of paper. What can I do? So online, fantastic for me. But more usefully, I do also remember very, very long queues at ticket machines on the Paris metro. So Navigo on the iPhone, it is just all the way around perfect. TripIt, Apple Wallet. It goes on, doesn't it? But all of this in one device with me all the time. Thank goodness I have a good data plan on my phone. And that's it for this edition of 58 Keys. I do remember, please, the 58 Keys writing workshop videos that come out every Monday. And actually, just talking to you now, I've decided this, got to do this. One of the Friday 58 Keys script clubs, as soon as I can do it, will be about, well, I'll be enthusing in more detail, much more detail, about the filming locations and the rest of the screenplay to Before Sunset. Love that film. But for now, thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourself. Write more. And I'll see you soon.